Hello and welcome. I'm Greg. This is Superhero Coding. Today we wrap up our October 2023 series and we finish Flappy Bird. So that's going to look like adding a start and end screen, a button where people can play again without having to just reload the whole scene, and publishing to WebGL. As always, you can get the art and assets for this project at superherocoding.com and some other cool stuff when you sign up on the email list. And hey, that's it. Let's get into the code here and go over there. All right, we're good. All right, so I'm going to switch to WebGL. I'm going to do that later, though. For now, we're going to pick up where we left off. This is where we left off. I'm going to, as usual, yeah, you can't duplicate when you're right click. I don't know why that is. Anyway, not important. I'm going to select that. I'm going to Control D on Windows or Command D on Mac. Set that to Flappy Game 07. Could be calling these, session 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. It's fine. Because again, I like my backup stuff, and I can even go back and look at some of the really early stuff and kind of see how it's progressed. So I think it's progressed well. So let's make some code. So I want an entry screen that's or something that says play, something that says game over, and a button or two. We laid the groundwork for this last week when we set up the UI and the game manager the week before. So where we are, I hit play. Game, we've got points. If we run into things, we lose a life. Lives over, done. All right. So the easy low-hanging fruit is to add a game over screen and restart. I'll go ahead and do that. Show you about putting this scene in the build settings, restarting so that restarting by reloading the scene. That's not necessarily the best way to do it, but it's not a terrible way to do it either. It takes a little work. We're gonna do that first. So let's make a game over screen. I have a canvas selected. I want to add a new game object UI. Let's just make a panel, I guess. Yeah, that works. Call that game over. And make it dark. And change the alpha. And just going to use the default settings, which should make it basically take over the whole thing. And we're going to add panel. We're going to add UI button. Well, text and a button. All right, so text that says game over. I'm going to click this. I'm going to hold down Alt and then click that. So holding down Alt also sets the position. So I'll hold down Alt, I click that, that centers it. And I can make it a little bit bigger if I want, crank up the font size a little bit. Center it. Game over. It's not super fancy. Now, if you run into this, let me show you why. I'm going to pick this. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit F to focus on it. So this is the amount of space we have given it to work with. That's why it's wrapping. If I do this a little bit closer, you'll see that it wraps with that amount of space. So what we want to do, that out, I can drag this out. I mean, this right now it overflows by default, so it doesn't cut off, so that doesn't matter as much. But something like that, that's probably a little big. Sure. That a little, and then I'm just gonna trim that up because I think this factors in when you center it. And then I'm again, that changed nothing. All right, it's fine. And then I want to move it up a little bit because we're going to put a button down here. Game over. Does not look centered. I don't care. Do it like that. And it is centered in the middle and spread all the way across. Whatever. Good enough. The other thing I want to do is I want to add a button here. So I'm going to create a game object UI button. It does not matter what you call it up here. That's just for your reference. The actual text on the button itself is in the Text Mesh Pro object on the Try Again button. That, play again. And that changes what's actually on the button. And it's centered. I'll do that again to didn't do anything. This needs to be centered. All right. Okay. The last thing I'm gonna do, I want to move that down a little bit. Could grab it over here and move it, but I'm just doing it over here. I can change the height a little bit. It's a little bit small for the button. Something is still misaligned. It's bugging me a little bit. I'm not going to worry too much about it though. Just not. All right, there's our game over. All right. Let's do it like that. All right, now what we want to do, we want to move these things and put them under the panel. Grab that, and I'm going to shift click that, drag those under there. So what this does is when this panel, the game is playing, when the game is over, we turn on the panel. And if you've got raycast target set right there, then it will catch clicks. It will not catch, meaning when I click on the screen, it's not going to click on, if I had something on these game objects, it's not going to catch those game objects, or not going to receive those clicks, because this canvas is a raycast target. So it will catch the clicks instead, which is what you want. Once a game's over, you don't want it to interact with things. It does not catch keyboard things, but when we remove our bird from the scenario, that pretty much takes care of that. So this starts off by default. And we want to go to our manager. So we're going to need to add another object here. So I'm going to just double click this. That open up. Okay, so here I am in a different version of Visual Studio that is not going to scream at me. Public game object, GO, game over screen, with panel, either way. So this is off by default, game over panel. Once that recompiles, it's going to pop it up here. And I can grab that, drop that right there. And what I can do then is I will, when I set Flappy Player active to false, I'm going to set the game over panel to true. So what that should do is once we hit our third object, now that we've got this selected, it should just set that to true, which is the same as just clicking the button. All right, there's your 1, 2, 3. Game over. Play again. All right. Play again does nothing, but watch this. This is really easy to add an option. So we're going to say, I think I think this has to be public for a button to work. Just call it reload scene. That's what we're going to do. Scene manager, not load scene 0. And I believe we have to have a. I think we've got to have a using up thing in there. Using engine.scene. It's not. All right. So, Unity Scene Manager. Using Unity Engine Scene Management. Well, I said I was going to stream everything, right? Here you go. All right, yeah. If it was working right, normally it would pop up and say, "Hey, you need to use this class is not defined. You need something else to use it." Blah blah blah. So now it should be right. Because I don't always remember the syntax, so yeah, I just Google it. And if you couldn't find that, then you would type in something like Unity load scene. It would pop up with Scene Manager load scene. This is the newer way to do it. There's another way to do it. There's an older way to do it. More times are about that. Yeah, it's got examples. Like everything else, Unity's at a place where there are good documents. There's a lot of good documentation at this point. So load scene 0. What does that mean? So we got to go to our build settings now and add this open scene to the list. We can click and drag it in there, which I'm not doing. I'm just pointing out. But this is also very handy. Add open scene. So it's in there. Scene Flappy Game 07, and that 0 right there is how many scenes we have. If I just drug some other ones in there, scene 1, that's scene 2, that's scene 3, and you can turn them off or on or whatever. Now I'm just going to grab all those and hit delete because we don't need them all. We just need this one. I'm going to save that. And I'll show you what that does. So what that's going to do, well, it's not going to do anything because we haven't wired up the button yet. Turn that back on for a moment and go to this button and say button on click. And then you drag in the object that has the function you want to perform on click. Function, Flappy Manager, and reload scene. That's it. And then I want to make sure I turn this off. I could put something in here that turned this off automatically. Don't need that. All right, 2 lives left. Get to my last one. Boom. Game over. Play again. Yes. And then there we go. So just like that, we've got a game over scene that works. When we get to the end, it's just going to keep going until we either hit play and leave, or we hit play again. When we hit play again, it's reloading the whole scene. So that is different than just running something again. It's kind of a cheap and dirty way to do it, but it's really not a bad way to go about it. It's just not. So checking my time here. You know what? I think for now I'm gonna go ahead and leave that because I want to do the WebGL build. That works good enough for now. We could put in a start game scene. It's a really easy way to start the game. Yeah. So I could put an object that turns that off and turns this on. So about this. Oh, why not? Let's do it. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that one last time. Flappy Game 08. Now this is important. Go to build settings. If number 8 is your current build, is your current scene that's got your most recent game, you're gonna want to add that in. So you drag that up, delete the other one, save, double click this to go into there. All right, so there's a couple ways we can do it. The easy way, I guess, is gonna be, I'm gonna drag the player under the Flappy Manager. Then I'm going to duplicate my game over panel, and I'm going to call this a game start. This is kind of a cheesy way to do it, but it's not terrible. You know, and so often, if it looks good enough, it is. You know, it's like, it's fine. Start panel. And so in this case, I don't need a don't need the panel to be black over everything. I probably just want it to be mostly transparent. I guess that works. This will be a little janky. It'll be fine. That I'm going to change this to say start game. Change that to say welcome. No, I'm not. We're just going to have start game. Let's delete that up a little bit. I could make it a little bigger if we want. Hard to miss. Welcome to Almost Flappy Bird. I'm going to have to change what happens when we click on it. Start game. You know, I'm the only one that ever sees this other than you, but it's still just a good practice to keep your code components named right and updated and all that stuff. So now I cannot call this on that because that object is inactive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that when you click start, oh, you know what? I guess I'm wrong. Learned something new. Okay. What I'm going to do is when you hit start, it will turn that off and it will turn this on. There, and then it went away. Okay, maybe this was a bad idea. That's okay. It can be redeemed. Did not think it would load something on. I didn't think you could use the script on a deactivated game object. Apparently you can. All right, so we're going to change that a little bit. So now we're going to make this to say load. Load my scene, because load scene is used already. And we're going to say int which scene. And that we're going to pass in a number that says what scene we're loading. So what that's going to allow us to do, thankfully, Unity's button system allows us to send something with it. So what I'm going to do, what to do. I think what I'm going to do is, all right, this is saved. I'm going to duplicate the scene again and call it start screen. Double click that, go to build settings, start screen. That's now scene 0. Flappy Game 8, that's now scene 1. So this is important to remember. I'm in start screen, and so I can leave all this stuff on there. I think it'd be kind of cool to have those moving around in the background. Don't really need the text. I mean, I guess that's okay. And then I do want to distinguish now between what was there with just nothing on it. Make this to where it's at least a little bit. I want it to look a little different. I don't want it to just pop straight into the game. So we start here with a bright screen and a big blue button that says start the game. That's terrible. That's worse. Great, but if we change the text color, it won't be, yeah, hey, I'm a programmer, not an artist, right? Okay, that's doable, right? So this scene is basically an unplayable duplicate of the other. Well, let me finish wiring up and I'll show you what happens. So what we want to do now, though, is when we click the button, so because we changed the, this, it says, hey, I'm missing that. So Flappy Manager's still in there. I can click that and see that. That's right. What we want to do now, we want to go to Flappy Manager and we want to go to load my scene, and it takes an int. So we're going to say scene 1. This is the start game scene. Scene 1 is the actual playing the game scene. So it goes from that into this. Just gonna turn that off, turn that on, and then here on the game over panel, we need to go to the button and we need to do the same thing we just did again. To Flappy Manager, load scene, and we want to load scene 1. So let's try that out. We have our start screen, so we hit play. Oh, we talked about making those invisible too. It's fine. I'm gonna leave it like it is. I think it does look kind of janky. All right, now if I hit start game, boom, we're there. So you know, maybe we want to give them a second, but you know, hey, they can restart again, just like that. Okay, yeah, I don't like the point things being visible, so I'm gonna grab that. Grab all of them at once. I want to turn off the mesh renderer. Got to leave the collider on or you're not going to get those sweet points. And that is in my start screen. And I'm going to do the same thing over here in this. Those and turn off the mesh renderer component. All right. So we've got our start scene here. Bam! There's your game. And your game's over because Flappy Bird is hard. See, now as I'm moving through, I'm getting points even though I am, even though you can't see the things anymore, still getting points. Game over. Play again. So, pretty happy with that for the 4 hours I put into it. Only thing I think I want to change is no shadows. I think all the shadows look pretty janky. All right. Yeah, I like that better. It's not perfect, but it's really not bad. Another thing I think I would change is I would take the floor and the ceiling and turn off the renderer for those. So I save that. You got a pretty decent Flappy Bird game here. It'd be better if everything was here and you hit start game and it's like 3, 2, 1, and it started, but it's okay. Game over. Play again. All right, that's it. Game complete. Now, I'm going to change this to WebGL. Going to switch platform. This could take a while. Switch over here. So, yeah, whenever you switch platforms, that's going to take a while. Could take a long while. And could take a long while. This isn't a super huge scene, so it shouldn't take that long. There's not that much to re-import, but it has to re-import everything. Anytime you switch platforms from Windows to Mac to Linux or WebGL or whatever. If you're not familiar with WebGL, that is going to enable us to publish out to a website. There's itch.io you can publish on, itch.io. There's another one that's, I'm not going to say the domain name because I'm not exactly sure. There are some other sites too that you can go to that you can publish things out on. I'm not actually going to do the publishing here because I do not have my credentials here, but I will put a link in the description when it's done. But the key thing is going to be actually publishing it. All right, it's done. Let's switch back to this view. It's done. It's switched. We are on WebGL 5. So all we have to do now is click build. It's going to ask us where we want to put it. Actually, let's go there. Let's go there. And I'm going to call it almost Flappy Bird. And that's where I want it. And it's going to build. It doesn't take very long. All right, let's see how long. Yeah, look at that. That's going quick. So again, bigger the project, the longer it's going to take. In this case, we'll be done in a few seconds here. So yeah, that's the project. I'm pretty happy with how this came out. I feel pretty good about the tutorial. Let me know what you think. If you'd like to see something, what would you change about the game? There's all kinds of different ways you can change stuff and see. I mean, you could put camera in there so that it's first person Flappy Bird. Actually, kind of interesting. I did that with one of my previous builds. I don't know why I'm looking around. It's not on my desk, but yeah, first person Flappy Bird, kind of interesting. There are other options and things you can do that will make your game more interesting, but that's just one of those things you're just going to have to play around with it and find out. All right, so this is almost done, and let's see, should be done momentarily. Close to being done. Clear build. Let's see. Switch back over here for a second. And all right, and we're back. This has been an exciting live stream. Yeah, Flappy Bird. You probably didn't think when this started that in less than 4 hours it was going to be finished. Flappy Bird is a great example because, I mean, if I wasn't explaining this as I went, especially starting with my sidekick scripts, I could have knocked this out in a couple hours, the vast majority of it. But that's where game development gets interesting. You can do that. You can start looking at it. You can see what's there. You can start playing around. You can explore it. See what what other stuff you can do to make the game interesting. Have the barriers come through at different times, stuff like that. Switch back to that. So that's still loading. And almost done. It takes a few minutes to make a WebGL build, but not too terribly. So when this is done, this will be available on my page. And at the moment, will be, just go ahead and show this. So unseenthings.itch.io. There's one game there. I will add it in here. It'll be the Flappy Bird October 2023 project. Itch is a neat platform, a simple way to share and find indie games. There's all kinds of crazy stuff on here. You can sell your games if you want. There's a lot of game jams. I've talked about game jams on this channel and why they're a great idea. I'm not going to scroll because I don't know what's on the front page. Yep. All right. Well, it's still loading. Still loading. This is not very exciting. That's okay. Let's see here. Maybe I should actually wait until we're done. So unfortunately in Unity, you can't really do a whole lot while this is building. So and unfortunately, I can't really trim this out of the final video either, but that's all right. So yeah, other things that you could do, you could do it from a first-person perspective. You could do it from, you could make it where some of the items are destructible. You could shoot at the blocks as they come through. You could, there's a lot of different ways you could change the game up, but you're not going to know those until you first make the game and then just play the game. You gotta try it. You gotta try stuff and find out how it's going. See what you can do with it. So, well, maybe I should not have said I'm going to show everything in real time. I should have known publishing WebGL was going to take a while. I didn't think it'd take that long, but maybe I should have started earlier. So yeah, this is going to wrap up this month's project. Once this is done, and I guess you don't need to see it, it's just going to be some files in a directory. The next month's project is going to be a Galaga type game, Space Invaders Galaga type game, where you are shooting an alien boss that is shooting back. You have some power-ups, stuff like that, guided bullets, things like that. I think one of my artist friends and I are going to get into VR and sculpt some ships, the boss ship, the bad boss ship, and the player and stuff like that. And so that'll be kind of a cool addition. We are planning to record the session and put it up. And now it's done. All right. So yeah. So when you're done, you get something like this. And if I look at that, that is 6 megs, a whopping 6 megs. And if I had a web server up, I could load that You cannot just drag it into your browser and play it. It doesn't work that way because it needs an actual web server. But yeah, so I'll upload this and that'll be available on my itch page. So yeah, I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the session. And thanks for watching. Let me know what was unclear, what you'd like to see that I didn't cover this time. And